Great if we could get.
Hello, everyone.
Hi. All right. Okay. I think then we're good to go. So, yeah, it's thank you so much for all of you guys for coming. You guys were selected out of a ton of individuals that expressed interest. So, we're really glad to see you guys here. So, the goal of this seminar and of this Youth Water Dialogue is three simple things. We're looking and hoping for you guys to share your own experiences, to know more about the experiences of individuals living in the North, as well as to allow you guys to connect with each other to be able to learn more and have a dialogue about situations and the current water crisis going on in the North. We are also going to be hoping to be able to publish a mini report on this that will be displayed and be able to be shared with the rest of the over 500 members within the NexYouth community of different youth that are interested and concerned within these specific issues that are occurring within our world. So, yeah, without further ado, I think we can get started. So, we're going to start off with a little icebreaker because we really hope that you guys are able to be able to know each other.
Wonderful. Yeah. So we're just going to do a really basic introduction. Just introduce yourself and also from where you're calling in from. And as well as this discussion is focused around the water in your community and how it is, maybe just take a moment, just introduce how is the water in your community? Are there anything remarkable that you'd like to point out or share? And like any concerns or anything you have about that. But it's just really basic introduction stuff, and we'll dive deeper as we go on in this conversation. So anybody want to start us off? No. For those of you who said you can only use the chat box, you can just type in the chat. But yeah, Morgan.
Hi everyone. My name is Morgan, and I'm calling from Nunavut. I'm currently a student, and I'm interested in environmental issues, especially in topics that are related to water and climate change. And I'm looking forward to, hearing everyone's thoughts and learning more about the challenges and opportunities that different communities are facing.
Yeah, 100%. Me too. I'm also looking forward to that. What university did you say you were studying at? Or sorry, it was a little muffled. Morgan?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I'm currently studying at the Arctic College at Nunavut.
Oh, okay, okay. Wow. And studying climate change, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay. So you know a lot about this topic. Wonderful. Anybody else like to share? Let's just try to get everybody, as this is a relatively small group. No? If you just so you know, you guys can always just type it in the chat if you want. I know some of you guys don't have your microphones or cameras.
Yeah, you guys are also free to annotate the slides if you have anything that you want everyone else to see.
Okay, wait. Courtney wrote, I'll just read it out for everybody to hear. Hi everyone, I'm 22 years old and I'm from Rankin Inlet. Sorry if I mispronounced that, none of it. I'm currently studying environmental science at the University of Manitoba. I'm interested in learning more about how climate change is affecting water systems in northern communities and hearing different perspectives from other participants. Wonderful, studying at the University of Manitoba. Wow. And environmental sciences as well. So we do have a lot of very qualified people here. That's amazing. Anybody else? I know there's two more because we got four. Oh, okay. There's one more. Hi everyone. I'm 19 years old and I'm joining from Inuvik. Sorry if I mispronounced that. Northwest Territories. I'm currently studying geography at the University of Alberta. I enjoy learning about environmental issues and community development, and I'm excited to be a part of the conversation about water and climate challenges in the regions. Wonderful, studying geography at the University of Alberta. Wow. So we have We have an environmental scientist, a climatologist, and a geologist. Wow, that's amazing. And yeah, I think there's one more, or one. Yeah, there's one more. I think it's Ryan. Oh yeah, awesome. I'm 26 from Iqaluit. I'm a municipal engineering officer with transportation and infrastructure, none of it. I help design and operate and maintain water supply systems for 25 communities in Nunavut. Wow, that is that's insane. That's a lot of that's a big responsibility. And I'm sure you'll have lots of insights for us to share and discuss. Wonderful. It's nice to meet you all. I just realized I haven't properly introduced myself, and neither has Justin. My name is Max. I'm located in Toronto, and me and Justin are just here to understand the water systems and share it with our community of students and such, just so that everybody can get a better understanding of how climate change and how the water systems work right now in Canada, especially since it's such a local issue to a lot of us. Justin?
Yeah. All right. So I think we can get right into the discussion then. So the first thing that we wanted to know is just a bit more about the context of what you guys are experiencing so that you guys can share your own personal perspectives and experiences. So we had two very simple discussion prompts, and we'd love to see this discussion emerge as a whole. So the first one is simply, what changes have you simply noticed? And in the water quality from what you've heard from anecdotes, and how have they been affecting your daily lives or the individuals' lives that you've met or encountered? And what really is the role of water and the quality of water in your lives? And why to you is it something that is so important? So yeah, anyone is free to start answering any of those questions. I know they're really big ones, so feel free to take a moment to think about it. And we'd love to kind of start the discussion here.
I know most of you guys are typing, so we can take like a minute
Okay.
to wait. Or
Yeah.
Morgan, do you want to
Uh,
share?
yeah, I'll say one change I've noticed. Um, the water conditions here are not actually as predictable as they used to be. Yeah, that over time the the conditions are not like that predictable when it comes to seasonal changes, especially with seasonal changes, and it gets to affect the availability and the quality of the water. And due to that, it can actually affect, the daily cooking routines like cooking, getting soup clean, and planning ahead and all those things. And water actually plays a huge role. Like you can't go a day without using water in your life, so it plays a huge role. Um, uh, uh, um, basically, basically because it's something we depend on for everything. Yeah. So when there are issues affecting water, it impacts the whole community.
Yeah, okay, that is really cool. And that is definitely something that is very important. Yeah, for sure. It plays a huge role in part of our lives. Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for sharing.
Wait,
Those
I like to ask a follow-up on that. When you say it's very unpredictable, is it just in the water cycles and how often it rains and such, or is it also in like the quality of water and like I don't know, like what specifically do you mean by when it's unpredictable?
Okay, when I say the water is unpredictable, I meant that the seasonal water patterns actually feel less stable. Like sometimes, for example, the melting period, the rainfall, and actually the other conditions, so they don't seem to follow the same timing or consistency. And when it comes to things like that, it actually affects local water availability and the quality of it too.
That makes sense. 100%. I can definitely see that as well here in Toronto, probably to a lot less of a degree, but definitely we've noticed also just changes in the patterns, especially with the seasonal changes in like in the springtime and in the winter and such. Yeah. Justin, you want to read the chat entries?
Yeah, sure. So Courtney has written, I've noticed more conversations around water safety and changing environmental conditions, especially linked to climate change and shifting weather patterns. When water access or quality becomes uncertainty, it affects basic daily activities and can also create stress for households that depend on consistent water supply. water is essential not just for survival, but for maintaining health, hygiene, and overall community stability. Yeah, definitely for sure. Uh, I'm curious, do you have Courtney, this looks really, really interesting. I'm just curious, do you have any like specific anecdotes or times when you might have seen or around in your community that you might want to feel comfortable sharing? Yeah, I find this really, really interesting and I always want to just know a bit more. Yeah, and then just Burden, that one thing, not really, yeah, it's completely fine. Sure. So one thing I've observed is that environmental changes seem to be affecting water sources more noticeably over time, especially with weather becoming less stable. This can disrupt daily life in small but important ways, like limiting access or requiring extra caution when using water. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, these seem like really, really important issues. Yeah, I'm just curious on that part about the weather becoming less stable. If you have any specific thoughts on like, what specific weather conditions do you think links to specific issues with the water sources or anything?
Also, I'd like to add, you mentioned as well, like requiring extra caution when using water. I do know a lot of reserves do unfortunately have boil water advisories, so that could be what you were referencing, and that is definitely, I think, one of the products of climate change, but also an issue of other, systemic flaws and pollution and such. But definitely, yes, a lot of communities and areas have had to, um, you know, be under boil water advisories. I'm curious, do any of you guys have experience or know of people who have unfortunately had to deal with these advisories and had to have boiled their water because of the unsafe conditions? Anybody? Oh, someone added to the. Justin, you want to read that?
Yeah. So yeah, Hefziba wrote, yes, there are a few specific weather conditions that can lead to water issues. For example, heavy rainfall can cause runoff that affects water clarity, while rapid snowmelt can overwhelm natural drainage and water systems. Yeah, that looks definitely really important. So I'll give a bit of time for anyone that would be interested in responding to Max's question, of course.
Yeah, I didn't get the last question, please. Can you?
The last question. Oh, it was basically just do you guys know of anybody or have personal experience with like being forced to be cautious when using water? So like boil water advisories. Well, that's the only one I know of, but if there any other like warnings that your local government gives you because the water is unsafe? Do you guys know of any examples of that, either with your friends or family or you yourself have to deal with that? That was the question.
Okay, so answer that, I haven't really had any personal I haven't personally had to completely avoid using water, but there have been times where um uh the advisories, or the caution notice sometimes make people more careful about how they use it. But in situations like that, it's more about being cautious with drinking or making sure that the water is properly treated before using it. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%, definitely. And it is unfortunate when like the responsibility of treating the water is placed on the individuals as opposed to the government systems that actually clear it up. I do know that who is it? Ryan, you are a engineer for water, help operate water supply and stuff, water supply systems. Do you guys go through any like filtration processes to ensure that your water is clean and so that the individuals don't have to take it into their own responsibility to make sure the water's clean and such and properly treated?
Yeah, that's the objective. Nunavut's striving towards a standardized water treatment across the territory, which is supposed to factor in the effects of climate change. Like it was like Jeff mentioned in there, permafrost and heavy rainfall, um, rapid snowmelt. They're all climate change impacts that are changing the water quality, and we're trying to make the facilities more resilient because there's a lot of impact when uh, a lot of distrust, I think, when communities always have to see the boil water advisories, and then they like often resort to using their more traditional water sources. So that's a bigger discussion maybe, but yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And
Definitely.
have you
Uh,
noticed then? Oh yeah, Justin.
so, okay, yeah, I was just curious as to how do you guys like monitor water quality? Is it like done like specifically every day, or is there like a gap in time, or is it like something that you guys are finding like you guys might need more infrastructure on, or how is it looking?
Um, so there's new water plants which have real-time monitoring, like for example, Resolute Bay, um, and Whale Cove. But often to get more data, which would be tracking climate change related parameters, would be done quarterly. Samples sent to labs in Ottawa, Winnipeg, or Yellowknife. Um, and we're also tracking new emerging contaminants, if you will, like PFAS, cryptosporidium, giardia. There's like emerging and algae emerging contaminants due to climate change.
It's really cool. Yeah. So if it's sent like quarterly, sorry, just one last question. I'm just curious. If it's sent being sent quarterly, do you guys have anything that you got like do you guys do anything like between the quarters to ensure, or is it really just based on that quarterly report for monitoring?
Um, it depends if the Department of Health request. The health centers often will get well, they'll flag certain illnesses or sicknesses, and at that point they might start requesting additional testing like more frequently. Or if there's a boil water advisory, that then there's more sampling done and more testing required. Sometimes the boil water advisory, for example, in Arctic Bay right now, it's been over a year because of climate change that you're referenced. Then there's a bit less testing because there's not much that can be done. Um, but until the new water plant's built, which is under construction, for example, a lot of case to case.
That's really cool.
Mhm.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, I've noticed Courtney has written in the chat. I've experienced situations where there were warnings or concerns about water safety, and it made people in the community more aware of how they were using water. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm just curious, is there any like specific situation that you can recall that was like about water safety or anything that you might like to share? Because yeah, that looks really interesting and we'd love to know more. Yeah.
It might take a second to
Yeah, it
type.
might take a second. Yeah. So in the meanwhile, I'll just ask the other part. I know we've already kind of like answered it, but like, where exactly do you guys think water information matters the most into the lives of individuals within your communities or from the people in your surroundings? All right. I know we've kind of answered it, so it's fine if you guys don't have anything new.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I usually get water informations from the local announcement or community notice. Sometimes these the updates are actually shared. Yeah, the updates are shared by the um government authorities. Yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah, I've noticed Courtney's responding. Yeah, Courtney's written, I remember periods after heavy rain when there were warnings about water safety and people were advised to be cautious. It made a difference in how households use water because extra steps were needed before it was safe to consume. Yeah, definitely. Thanks for sharing. Um, has written, I get water information mainly from official channels like government or health advisories, especially when there are changes in water safety. Sometimes it also spreads through word of mouth in the community. Perfect. I'm actually going to just move to the next slide because that was exactly what our next part of discussion was about. Oh, and perfect. And hunter and trappers are regional Inuit organizations, also do West water testing for water source. Yeah, thank you so much for letting us know about that. All right, okay. I will pass back to Max, and I think we're already kind of in the next part of the discussion that we want to talk about, which is actually about how you guys get water information access and if you guys find it is specific. I'll let Max cover.
Yeah, so a lot of you have mentioned you get your information through government organizations that do the water testing and share the information with you. But that, I mean, obviously, there's no system that's perfect, and we're wondering, do you guys personally feel, or if people that you know feel like it is a stretch and very difficult to access information about the water quality? I know that there's explicitly states on government websites like whether or not your community or your area is a boil water advisory, but oftentimes more specific and important and like nuanced details are overlooked and are a lot harder to find, which may be important to personal health. And also like um, I know one of you guys mentioned that spread through word of mouth, and definitely that's although yeah, that works as a way of method of communication, it is not the most effective one. And we just want to know if you guys have any experience with concerns and like difficulties in actually accessing information about your water quality, especially if it's spread through more inefficient mediums like word of mouth as opposed to actual government institutions. Any ideas?
Sorry, it seems you actually cut out, and I don't know.
Oh, I cut out? Okay, I can repeat myself. All right, let me make sure. Okay. Basically, I was just asking if you feel like there's any missing information about the water that you that is either difficult for you to access or that just like you don't have access to in the first place. Like maybe information about specific like contents in the water and such like that. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Sometimes I feel like the details about the water quality are not actually being given. Like they're not giving detailed information about the water quality. We might hear that there is an advisory or that water should be treated, but we don't always get the full breakdown of what is found in the water test or what specific changes cause the concern. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I can definitely see there's some level of lack of transparency, especially when there's so many advisories. You want to see, you want to understand the reason as to why these advisories exist and what changes have led to that. But definitely, oftentimes, the Canadian government is untransparent in that respect. Anybody else have any experiences with like information gaps, either things you personally don't know about the water quality or things that your friends and family have reported? Okay, let me read what has been said. Sometimes the missing information is the more detailed or technical side of water updates. We might get general notices, but not always clear explanations of what is being monitored and how often testing is done, or what long-term trends look like for water quality in communities. 100%. I saw Ryan thumbs up that, so he also agrees. And that I think that could definitely be true. Um, and it also aligns with what Morgan said, right? You have the advisories, you have the general notices, but you don't actually have the reasoning and the rationale and the justification behind them. And that often can make people feel scared, especially when it's something like a boil water advisory, where it's like you need to boil water or otherwise it is unsafe to drink. You want to have that sense of security so you know what's so dangerous about the water. And as you guys have all generally been in a consensus about, that's something that's very hard to access. And Courtney agrees with him. Yeah, 100% that I think the general consensus here is that oftentimes the technical details are overlooked and such. Justin, you want to add anything?
Yeah, one other question I was Oh, sorry. Courtney's written, I think the gap is in how the detail is being communicated. All right. Yeah. So, yeah, I just had two. So, it looks like for most people, it's that it's not specific enough. It is too general information. And on that note, I was also curious as to what sources do you you guys trust? What are the main sources of water information that would be someone that you would believe from that you find credible? Who is some what are the other sources that you feel like that might be more unreliable and that you might sometimes still have to rely on? Like, what places do you guys feel the most trustworthy about for your information?
For me, I think I tend to trust the official government or public health sources the most, especially the local water authorities because they are directly responsible for safety updates. They're the one in charge of it, so they know what is and what not. So most of the information is being given to us by them. I tend to trust it because most times they are accurate. You know,
Okay, definitely. Thank you. Yeah, okay, that's great. Yeah. Does anyone else have any other opinions or perspectives on? or- So, Courtney writes, for me, credible sources are usually official environmental or municipal water services since they provide tested and verified information rather than rumors or secondhand updates. For sure. Yeah. I'm also just curious about is that we kind of earlier talked about like, things like testing frequency. So, do you guys feel like the te would you guys do you guys feel sorry, how do I phrase this? Do you guys what do you think would be an ideal amount of testing that you would like on your water? Like how often or what would be your ideal metric of an amount for ensuring that the water you're consuming is safe?
I could chime in on this one. I think in Nunavut, it's important to remember. I mean, this doesn't apply as much to Rankin or Resolute Bay or Cudahy, but out of most people receive their municipal water through cisterns, holding tanks. So that's different kind of testing from the testing that comes from the municipality or transportation and infrastructure in Nunavut. Um, and so perhaps there could be more testing done at that level where the cisterns are, um, but just not currently, there's no standard yet for that. There's guidelines and recommendations, not an official standard.
For sure,
okay.
yeah.
Just
Yeah,
to add up, I think the what should be tested on a like on a very consistent and reliable schedule. Not just occasionally, because water quality can actually change quite quickly depending on the weather and the environmental conditions. So I feel, or I think rather, that there should be like a routine testing done at least like a few times a week. Like they can even do frequent checks. Frequent checks should be done too during periods of heavy rainfall or when there's like rapid snow melts or like any situation that could actually affect water systems. Yeah.
definitely. Yeah, for sure. I know that Hefza has written in the chat. I think the ideal amount of testing depends on risk levels, but generally it should be frequent and consistent with daily or near daily checks in high risk periods. Right. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I have a question for Ryan. When you bring up cisterns, are those systems like decentralized from what is provided by the municipalities? Like, are those individually owned or run by the community? Like, who runs those? Because you say it's separate from the transportation and forgot the other word, none of it.
Yeah, that would be at the household level. So that would typically be the housing association, private owner. Um, yeah, so the separation is as soon as the water is delivered to the tank, it's a different level of um, oversight.
That makes sense. That makes sense. And
Yeah.
yeah, Justin, you want to
Yeah, I
add?
was just curious on that note, is that because there are these different levels of oversight, I'm curious, is the quality of the water mainly the responsibility then of like the housing area, or would it be more of like the water delivery system? Like, where would the exact account, like, who is exactly responsible for that part of the system of like doing water testing, ensuring water quality?
It would typically fall in majority of the buildings in Nunavut would often fall on to the housing association or the business who owns that building, or it's really the building owner. So yeah, the education there is probably something that could be improved. And the education and just communication about that.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. Yes.
Yeah, because there's sometimes there's well water advisories, but they get confused because it's actually someone's personal tank, um, not the actual municipal system.
Yeah, that's cool. So yeah, in terms of yeah, okay, that's really interesting that definitely that like difference between how sometimes it's an individual systems problem compared to the municipal systems problem. Yeah, all right, okay. That's perfect. I'm just gonna see if there's anything I missed in the chat. Um, yeah, okay. All right, perfect. It looks like we're all good here. So my next part would be then, and we're going to just move on to the next part of the discussion is sorry, my computer's late. Okay, there. Solutions. So yeah, we're curious about three specific things. So firstly, as some of you guys actually noted in the Google form, what are the long-term solutions that you guys are interested in as a whole? What do you think would make easier information easier to access, more frequent, or better able to be understood? And what kind of additional information are you guys looking for about water quality in your lives? So yeah, feel free to answer any part of it. We can move question by question here.
I also saw what Courtney added for the previous discussion. I'll just read it out for everybody to hear. An ideal system would include routine testing at least several times a week, plus extra testing after any events like flooding, storms, or system disruptions. This way, any problems can be caught early before they affect people. 100%. I think everybody is generally in agreement when they say a couple times a week at minimum, and having it be regular, systemic, so that you can ensure people are safe. But yeah, but that was for the previous discussion. Yeah, any solutions? I know, Ryan, you did mention like informing and educating the individuals is one important thing, especially since the onus of making sure the water's clean is placed on the individual level. Then educating them and ensuring they know how to keep the water clean is also very important. But do you guys have any other ideas? What would you guys personally like to see with the water, and improvements with it?
Okay. For long-term solutions for me would include the improving of the water infrastructure so that the systems are more resilient to climate impacts, like the better treatment facilities and stronger pipes. Stronger pipes and the better treatment facility can handle um extreme weather. Yeah. And for information access, it would help a lot if updates were shared in like a simpler language, maybe with summaries that explain what is happening and what people should do. And the most useful information would be clear test results, what the risks are in plain terms, and how long like the issue is expected to last. Thank you.
100%. Um, yeah, you mentioned language, and I didn't even consider that. That's definitely an important issue, especially since in northern regions you have a lot more indigenous languages and such. It is important that you have that consistency where people can actually understand the information you're putting out. So yeah, 100%. I think those solutions would be very effective. Justin, you want to read what's in the chat?
Yeah, for sure. Courtney's written, I think long-term solutions should focus on upgrading water systems and making sure communities have consistent investment in maintenance and monitoring, especially in remote areas. To make information easier, updates could be shared through multiple channels like text alerts, community boards, and social media so no one misses them. The most helpful information would be real-time updates, clear explanations of advisories, and practical guidance on what actions people should take. Yeah, thanks very much. That's a really comprehensive and great response. Yeah, I'm curious. So in terms of like real-time updates, will this maybe look like an app of some sort where you could go on and just like see the live water quality in that area, or maybe like what's like like how would you think is the most best way for these real-time updates to be presented exactly? Yeah, okay, I'll quickly read the other comments. So Ryan's written in none of it bacteriological is for sampled more often than water, chemical, and physical parameters. And then there's sampling daily and overnight at a minimum within water plants. Oh, yeah, so I'm curious, is it the sampling daily overnight just for the bacteriological, or does it also apply for like water, chemical, and like physical parameters? And do you guys think you guys may want like more sampling or more testing of the water too, for like say something like algae or like a specific like toxic mineral or something?
Um, well, from my perspective, um, we try to follow the Canadian guidelines, which the territory should be trying to align with that, the Department of Health, but they kind of said almost all the sampling. So it's typically how we see it, but we are trying to do more real-time monitoring. And that would be for like, is there enough disinfection, filtration? That's what is done within the community. All the other sampling, like bacteria, and is right now working on doing it within the community, but right now that has to be sent out. And also the water chemistry has to be sent out with chemical parameters, and it is get very expensive too, for the municipalities. So that's it's a risk-based thing, depending on how much they'll do it basically above what is the minimum.
Really? Yeah, and when you guys are sending the samples out, like how long roughly might it take, and what do you guys do during the time while you're waiting for the results?
Yeah, that's a big problem in Nunavut because of how long it takes to get the samples because of the hold time at some of the labs, the minimum hold time to get a valid sample. So that's something like bacteria. We're trying to do it within the community, but a lot of the water chemistry and specialized parameters have to be done in the big centers like Ottawa, Winnipeg, and Yellowknife. And it is a big challenge to get full compliance with that minimum like EPA standards, ISO standards. Uh, it's just a reality of the north, of the geographic location for that situation sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it sounds definitely like something that is a tough challenge. Yeah, okay. I'll read up the other solutions. So, long-term solutions could include better integration of climate data into water planning, so systems can prepare for changing conditions like flooding or freezing. Information would be easier to access if it was centralized in one place and updated regularly and in clear, non-technical way. Yeah, for sure. I'm just curious. So, how is information being distributed right now? Is it like through like multiple news sources for you guys? Like how how do you like get it right now? So we just get a bit of a better understanding of the context. Courtney has written the best way would be through multiple channels at once, like text messages, community notice boards, and social media posts, but all saying the clear message. I think the key update is that the update should be quick, easy to understand, and include clear instructions if there's any risk. Yeah, definitely. That definitely sounds really important. Yeah.
Just on what Courtney you wrote, you mentioned the consistency between channels, and I'm wondering then, as you point that out as one of the solutions, is that an issue that you personally face or you know of exists where like either the medium of information I get from my local community telling me that the water is safe, maybe there's a discrepancy between that and what the government is telling me, or do you notice those inconsistencies right now? And is that why you put that as a solution, or is it just something that should just generally be something that like we should aim to do, have that consistency? If that made sense as a question. Anyways, Justin, you want to continue?
Yeah. All right. Okay. Okay, yeah. So my next question, it kind of goes on here, is just as a whole, if I'm just gonna send this out to everyone, we kind of talked about it, but it's like Oh, sorry, I'll just first read what Courtney says. So yeah, yes, sometimes the message shared on social media differs from what's on the community board. So yeah, it appears there's some contradicting messaging oftentimes. So yeah, and in terms of that, I guess what from all of your perspectives, what do you think is like the kind of what kinds of water information do you as community members or operators would often wish that you had that you needed, but that you simply don't right now? Or do you guys feel like you have everything? It's more about maintaining and improving access to the information?
I know earlier we mentioned like specific sorry, like having more detailed responses. So like what would that look like for you guys? Like what type of details and information would you love to know about the advisories and such? And Morgan, I saw you unmuted, so I'll let you share.
Um, I'll go first. I want more detailed breakdowns of the water test results. Yeah. Um, not just whether it is not just whether the water is safe or not, but what exactly was found and in what level it was found. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I think a lot of people could benefit from knowing that. Even if they don't understand the exact technical jargon behind it, it is still good information that they can at least should have and have the right to know. Uh, Justin, I can read the stuff in the chat unless you want to.
Yeah, you can go
Okay,
ahead.
it doesn't really matter. Um, Okay, I think, as Courtney says, I think I would benefit from more real-time and location-specific updates, like which areas are affected and how long the issue might last. Right now, the information can feel too general, so it is hard to know how it applies to different households. 100%. And also, this also ties back to what Ryan said on like having more consistent real-time monitoring. And that definitely requires better infrastructure, which I don't know if it's feasible or not in municipalities and such, but definitely I can see that as something that a lot of people could benefit from, especially the real-time aspect of it. So you know you're not following a boil water advisory that's like already outdated, and you can actually have that consistent on-time updating. And then Hefzibah says, I would like more follow-up information after advisories, like what caused the issue, what steps are being taken to fix it, and how water quality is improving over time. Yeah, 100%. I think all of these are relevant to some level of government transparency and being transparent as to the cause of the issue and the solutions that they're taking. And that can definitely help hold government accountable to the solution because if they put out the information, they say these are the steps that we're taking, it allows the community to hold them accountable. So 100%. All of you guys raise amazing points. Anything else, Justin, you want to add, or anybody else want to add?
Yeah, I'm also just specifically curious. This question is a bit more specific to Ryan. It's just for you as like from the operator's perspective, what do you think is right now like the biggest gap that that is in the system? Is it like the access to the data, like the timeliness, or like the actual monitoring capacity, or is it like the infrastructure to like solve an issue with the water quality specifically?
What was the first part? Sorry.
Oh, I was just curious as like what you think the biggest like gap right now is in terms of like operating these water systems. Is it like the access to data, how quick it is to get back like results, like the monitoring capacity, or like the infrastructure to, be able to make sure the water is clean and drinkable?
Um, Kind of depends on the community, but I think a lot of the key gaps were mentioned, like the infrastructure needs to be upgraded, local capacity needs to be improved, monitoring, testing locally needs to be improved. Um, the communication needs to be improved, and that comes from the Department of Health. Like a lot of this discussion about how we want to see notification and reporting that large, like the operators and the engineers, we all know think what it is, but it comes down to the Department of Health, how they want to communicate it to the public. Um, so yeah, I don't want to say too much about them.
Yeah.
But yeah, does that answer the question?
Yeah, for sure it does. Yeah, definitely. Sounds like yeah. Just another like curious part, because I've been reading and seeing how there's been usage of now like satellite-based mapping or remote sensing data to be try to be implemented for water monitoring. If anyone has like heard or have seen or like if it's been like ever implemented or if there's any barriers towards using it. Yeah, I'll just quickly read the other response that it's just in the chat. Yeah, so Courtney has written, from my perspective, a major gap is consistent monitoring and fast response systems. Even when issues are detected, it can take time for action to be taken or for updates to reach everyone, which affects trust and safety. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah, it definitely looks like we were seeing this common theme about trust and about how much we trust, the systems that we're currently using. Yeah, so definitely, yeah. Hefzibah has written, I would say the biggest gap is the combination of limited resources and harsh environmental conditions, which makes it harder to operate and maintain water systems effectively. This can lead to delays in repairs, uneven service, and less consistent water quality in communities. Yeah, definitely. So it's that limited resources, that limited infrastructure. We're definitely seeing that theme. Yeah, so for sure. Yeah. Yeah, I'm also curious, for all of you guys, is there any specific like water monitoring infrastructure or like promises that you've heard from the government that like you thought looked really good on paper, but they're not really working well in practice in the regions that you've lived in and experienced? Yeah, I'll wait for the chat for a second.
Uh, there are actually some, commitments about around upgrading water systems and improving the safety standard, but sometimes the changes are not very visible yet at a community level, especially in more remote areas where progress can be slower.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that definitely seems really true. Yeah. Do you feel like that has made anyone feel, less confident in the government monitoring systems, or do you think most people are still like having trust within the system that, this might just be like a one-off issue?
I think, when those promises are being made, some people are actually putting hope on it, but unfortunately, it doesn't just work out. So,
For sure. Yeah, definitely. Thanks for that response. All right. Okay. I'll wait for just one second, one more second. I'll let people finish their typing in the chat. Yeah. Oh yeah, okay. So has written, I've heard about promises focused on long-term investments in clean water access and better monitoring systems, but I haven't always seen those fully reflected in everyday experience yet. So it can feel like progress is still in development rather than fully in place. Yeah, definitely that seems really true. And it seems like something a lot of us in them, this has been definitely something that's been coming up a lot in this conversation. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm also just on that note, just I think we've always the call and talked about this is just specifically on the impacts towards these communities, which is that we've seen a lot of things like how water quality changes and climate impacts through things like droughts. Like, are there specifically any like water quality changes or like specific impacts to individuals within your lives? Like, is it the fact that they're having to spend more money on bottled water or having to like invest in a specific expensive filtration system that you guys have heard or seen about that we can share and learn more about? All right, I think we move on to the next part of the discussion because I know people are writing and yeah, there's a lot of it. All right, so the final part of this discussion is Sorry, it's loading. Is this part? I'll let Max take over and talk about it.
Yeah, so it is just what is one thing you wish people outside of your community understood better about water in your community? I know here in the question's a bit vague, but I definitely know, especially for the people I'm around, because I'm in Toronto, that the issues of things like boil water advisories and poor water quality and lack of proper infrastructure are relatively unclear, and most people are unaware of this, whether it's by their own will or not. And yeah, we're just like, I'm just curious if there was one thing you could let the not only the Canadian government but also the Canadian population know about the issues that your community is facing or struggling with water quality, what would that be?
I wish people outside my community understand that the water issues here are not just occasional problems. They're just closely tied to the climate and infrastructure challenges. So the solutions that will be in place need to be like long term and specific to the region. Yeah.
Yeah, 100% definitely. It's not something that's just a one-time thing. It's a systemic issue that not only comes with the climate, but also with the poor government monitoring and such. I could definitely see that as one thing that, it is very important for everybody to understand that. Um, I think Courtney wrote, I wish people understood that access to safe and reliable water in northern communities can be more complex than it looks from the outside, and it often requires ongoing support, maintenance, and investment rather than quick fixes. 100%, yeah, I know infrastructure takes a lot of money to develop, especially in more remote areas, and it is very important that people understand that this amount and this degree of investment is necessary for the protection and safety of the lives of all these northern communities. So 100%. Hefzibah wrote, I wish people realize that water in our community is something we think about regularly, not just when there is a crisis. It is connected to our daily life, weather conditions, and system limitations. So it affects routine in many ways that, um, in sorry, in many in affects our routine in ways that people outside might not see. 100%, 100%. It is water so important, and it's something that a lot of people in more southern communities, and I as well, take for granted. And so it is very important that we understand that. Ryan says, "Love your comment, Courtney. That's amazing." Yeah. Anybody else want to add anything on the comments or anything? Justin, you want to add anything?
Yeah. Anyone have any comments? Yeah, I think it's definitely very true that, this is a really complex situation and that there's not simply one simple fix and one generalizable fix for any community, of course. And yeah, it's definitely something we're going to be carrying on and passing along as an important message to everyone. Yeah, sure. If no one has any other comments, I'll put one last question about and discussion topic about the future because of course, there's many new emerging technologies that are occurring, and we're curious to know if any of you guys have interacted or used any of these technologies or heard about them. For example, there's been usage of, say, satellite imagery to maybe monitor something like water quality. We're using remote sensing to be able to try to see from space how the water quality is. We're curious to know if any of you guys have interacted with any of these technologies, know anything about them, or have seen how they worked or not. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
I think Justin himself also has a satellite imaging project, right? Don't you, for
Yeah,
water
I've been playing
quality?
around with things like satellites, so I was curious.
You want to explain that project to us?
Yeah, it's just a really cool. I was actually previously doing things with plastic imagery about being able to detect and monitor the locations of where plastics are within oceans and be able to map it out. And I've actually also been working on things regarding specifically about monitoring chlorophyll A concentrations within lakes, specifically often actually in northern areas because there's a bit of a different geographic restriction with things like what we call suspended sediments and color dissolved organic material. But yeah, it's quite cool because that can actually also help monitor things like water quality. So yeah, I'm kind of curious to see how people have interacted or seen these new technologies.
Both have Hefzibah and Courtney have not, unfortunately. Cool. Yeah, definitely. You guys should all, Justin, do you have like a link or anything you could share with them if you guys are
A
interested?
website that you guys can play around that actually I'll send it that if you guys want to try out that actually shows levels of toxins within water that I developed that you guys
This is
feel
completely out of
like
the blue, by
feedback.
the
Yeah,
way.
this is
Like,
really yeah, if you guys want to send an email for feedback or anything, I'd love to know. But
but
yeah. Also, just while in the meanwhile, because we're almost at the end, I just wanted to first say thank you so much. We'll of course send a follow-up email with compensation details and any future opportunities. Before we end, we just also just wanted to make this open space to let you guys share any last remaining thoughts that you had, any discussions you wanted to make with other individuals, or anything. Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. Ryan says any research relevant to water quality such monitoring would be appreciated by the government of Nunavut. The data is not always compiled between different stakeholders. Yeah, for sure. It's really it's definitely very good and important. And thanks for letting us know. Um,
Justin could share any monitoring he has of none of it, if that
yeah.
could be any of use to you.
Yeah. Maybe. Send the link. We can definitely follow up. Um,
Wonderful. If you guys have any last minute comments, now would be a very apt time to share. But it was a wonderful discussion. Thank you guys so much for sharing your perspectives and very eye-opening and great to discuss the issues that are affecting Canadians every day.
yeah, I'll send quickly just a Um, I'll actually just send in the follow-up email, just a cool link if any of you are interested in playing around with it. And yeah, I saw Courtney also asked about it. The honorarium will send a follow-up detail with emails. I think it'll likely be through an e-transfer. So it's just a way of thanking you guys for spending your time in your lovely evenings here with us to have this great discourse on water quality. Yeah, so
Yeah,
if
I just wanted to ask you, you said on your transfer, I wanted to know like when will it be sent? Like how long will it take for it to be sent and all that?
yeah, so we're gonna do this as soon as possible. So I believe in like the following follow-up email, which should be like by tonight, we're gonna just send details and we're gonna ensure that this happens as soon as possible. Probably I'm not sure on a fully set date, but definitely within the next week.
Oh, all right then.
Yeah, just check your emails tonight. It should have the information and such. And yeah, it should be really quick.
Okay. All right.
Wonderful.
Bye.
Yeah, thank you so much for all coming to this
Thank
wonderful
you.
discussion. I feel like this is really beautiful part about dialogue, and we're really excited to potentially continue working with you guys if we'll send you guys updates on anything or any other opportunities. And yeah, we'd like to really thank all of you guys for coming here and spending your wonderful evenings with us.
Awesome. You guys can dip now.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Someone's just us now.